Hello everyone and welcome to another podcast episode. Now before we get into this, let me just tell you a little bit about what's going on. Because you know what, sometimes I'm so 50-50 about how this is all going. I get one week where loads of things happen and I'm like, yeah, we are making so much ground. And then on another week I feel like, oh, is this ever going to go anywhere? But then I've got to remember and think back to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or even 5 years ago when I began doing this on the open mic stages around London, and recognise and remind myself that so much has actually been achieved. But this journey is full of highs and lows. It's full of obstacles, but also celebrations too. But it's really taken out of me, and this week I feel truly exhausted. But I know that you're backing me, and I know that everybody believes in this work, whether it's the Jeremy and Dixon side or the Something to Say side. So I'm going to keep pushing on. I'll never give up on this, and I know that it's going to evolve into something truly, truly unique and truly incredible. So I hope you enjoy this podcast episode, and as always, thank you for the support. Okay, so some of you will know that I recently launched a new YouTube channel for the Something to Say side of the content that I run. Now, originally we were receiving stories via written format and we were posting them onto our Instagram pages and other social media accounts. And then myself and the team had some discussion about how that was going because the momentum was really picking up on that. And we thought, well, how incredible it would be if we opened up submissions for people to be able to share their story via video format. And we just knew as soon as we came up with that idea that that would be powerful. So we opened it all up and we launched the YouTube channel, and we've now got 7 videos on that channel, and they are all incredible, informative, encouraging, inspiring. And there's one in particular that I want to go through today because, as you know, I'm trying to hit this subject from all angles because it is a subject that has so many different sides to it. We must try to address all of them. And this video is a lady called Nancy, and she's going to speak about her daughter. I'm not going to say anything more than that. I have, of course, seen the video before, and it is so striking. It's truly unbelievable. So let's get into that, and we'll go through it together.
Hi, I'm Nancy. My story is about me being the parent of an abused child, and it's really important to me to get the message out to parents, adults, carers, about lots of things actually. But first things first, that if a person comes to you and tells you that they were abused as a child, believe them. First things first, believe that story, because it is hugely unlikely to not be true.
Facts.
It's a massive thing, a hugely brave thing for someone to finally speak those words and tell about what's happened to them.
Just the fact that this is a mother speaking in front of the camera in public, happy for her and her daughter and her family's story to be put out there. And as she talks, she's talking from a place of experience with this. The experience that she never wanted, the experience that is tragic. She mentioned she's a mother of a daughter who was sexually abused. I just find so much power in this. I find so much, it's the energy about it. Because I do often say, actually, in fact, I say this in my presentation, the talk I give in schools, I remind the audience that the pain and discomfort isn't just with the person that it happened to, it's with everybody that's close. And for every victim of sexual abuse in a childhood, there are 2 parents who are also going to have to find a way to deal with the fact that their child was sexually abused. I cannot thank this woman enough for doing this. It's going to be, it's so many parents that have been through a situation like this are going to be able to relate.
And, you know, sometimes that means that the words come out, information comes out very sporadically or not necessarily in order, doesn't necessarily have a timeline to it, or it might only be a little bit of information at first. And actually, those are all good reasons to believe it the more, because
Right.
trauma doesn't work in a linear way in your brain.
Right.
And when someone is so fearful to speak the words, it's not necessarily going to come out really coherently.
Incredible.
Secondly, you know, when I was growing up, I was very aware that the people I should be afraid of are, you know, the strange man down the street that no one's really sussed out, or the dirty old man, you know, stranger danger. Those were the messages. And what I didn't know, but I do know now, is that I think the statistic is something like 95% of people who abuse children are those that are known to the family, known to the child, respectful, seemingly, citizens. The sort of the last person you'd think of, you know.
Okay, so that is a statistic that is like spoken about more and more. I heard that it's 90%. Nancy saying 95% here, that 95% of the people that sexually abuse a child are known to the child. And that old school stranger danger thing is now so old school, isn't it? I mean, everybody knows it's very rarely the case. I mean, how difficult it would be actually as a stranger to groom a child in quick time to be able to do something sexual to them, like to molest them, to assault them, to abuse them. And just a quick thought that just came into my head. Yes, in like real life, physical real life, that stranger in the park, the man in the white van, she was saying, those stereotypes that we used to adhere to, it's so unrealistic. But actually, I'm just thinking now that the online space has now created more opportunity for people who want to do this to a child to approach them as a stranger and start to coerce them. So actually, maybe the stranger danger thing is maybe relevant now, is it? So it wasn't back in the day, but that's what we were taught. Then we realised that it's actually people known to the family or known to the child, trusted by the child or trusted by the family. But now that we've got this online space and we've got young people and children glued to tablets and phones, they're now in a world where we are not. So now we've got 5-year-olds watching YouTube online with messaging services available, pop-up adverts, and we've got young teenagers also online. And the online space behind that screen is a place where parents can't be, so they're alone in that world, which must be so dangerous. Like, when you think about it like that, that is so dangerous. It's like saying to your 5-year-old, you know what? It's like saying to your 5-year-old, dropping them at the park and then driving home, having a cup of tea and a snack, and then going and picking them up later. Or maybe I'm just way off the mark there, but yeah, that's just something that just literally just came into my mind right now. Let's continue with the video.
And that makes it incredibly difficult, mainly for the victim, because to speak up against somebody who feels so credible, who might be a really good friend or a family member, and who you as a child might think, well, of course they're going to believe, let's say him, it is mostly hims, over me, you know, makes it really, really hard. to say anything. But also, it sadly means there's lots of people who then won't believe the victim. Just to say, if you are a victim, I believe you, and there are many, many people who will believe you. So when you meet that person who is unable to see the truth, know that they are not the only person you can tell your story to. There will be many people out there who will believe what you have to say.
Amazing.
For our daughter, the perpetrator was a very, very good, close family friend. In fact, he was married to one of my best friends and had been a very good friend of my husband's for years and years.
Wow.
And thankfully, though, when my daughter was brave enough to tell us her story, we did believe her immediately. And sadly, then hindsight kicks in, you know? Then you start...
Okay. I feel like I don't want the video just to keep running, because like this is a point of view that like we never really hear about. On the Something to Say pages and on my pages, we're always talking from the victim side, the person that it happened to's side. Could you even imagine? Now, look, I'm not a parent yet, right? But could you imagine finding out that your child had been sexually abused and it was one of your friends of the family, your best friend's husband, your like, and look, I'm not trying to take away. I'm obviously not trying to take away from the fact that the trauma lives with the child, right? I'm not trying to be like, oh, look at all the poor parents. That's not what I'm trying. But actually, I am also about that. What about the poor parents? What about the poor parents that also got groomed, that also got exploited? I know the sexual abuse didn't happen to them. The more I do this work, the more messages I get from, in particular, mothers who just don't know how to handle all of this. And I have parents too. And everyone's suffering. Everyone is hurting. Everyone feels like, how did this happen? How did we not notice? I wish I could turn back the hands of time. It's like you're ripping your head apart. And I often think that actually for me, from coming from my perspective, I was thinking about this for years and years and years in my own head before I brought it to my family, before I brought it to my friends. So for them, it's still fresh. It's still new. But for me, I've been dealing with it for some time. It must be so painful. It must be so painful. And that shows you how strong this woman is for being able to speak so clearly on a video like this.
Start going, well, hang on a second.
Come on.
When could this have happened? What could have happened? You start asking lots of questions. If you're wise, you start asking lots of questions. You don't turn this story away. You start asking some questions. And you know, there were
okay, hang on a minute. I just need to show you something just quickly. I'm so sorry to stop it, but something just popped up on the screen. And I know some people are listening to this on your podcast app. But at the moment, we're also putting this on YouTube. So visually, this is saying, when she's saying ask questions, she means what Nancy's trying to say here is, when she says ask questions of yourself, not ask questions to the victim. We don't need no 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 12-year-olds trying to tell us something and we're questioning them. Are you sure about that? Are you like we want to support them in their disclosure, not try to push them down. That's what I believe the point of that little pop-up on the screen here for the YouTube watchers is.
Lots of questions. You don't turn this story away. You start asking some questions. Okay, and you know, there were Understood. Little things, but they all started to add up. And I'll give you an example, because I think one of the things I really want to put out there to people who are looking after children and want to be wary of this stuff. You know, no, we all do, don't we? No one wants this to happen to our children. I mean, I just want to say, you know, this is something that, again, having my children, we have a loving family. Our kids were brought up in a loving family, both by me and my husband and by extended family and friends. You know, I would see our family, anybody locally would see our family as a very secure family unit. You know, it's easy to
Wow.
think this stuff happens in those troubled families, you know, where there's obvious issues, you know, where social services are aware. You know, that's where we sort of like to think it's happening, you know, because then we feel safer. But
Mm.
that's not the case. So, for example, we were on holiday with the perpetrator and his wife when our daughter was then 3 or 4. And this guy, you know, if you met him, you'd like him. You would. I hate saying positive words about this man, but he comes across as charming, kind, friendly. You'd probably like him and think he was a nice man. And he was seemingly lovely with our children. That's what we thought. And he'd offered this night on holiday to read the bedtime story to our daughter. You know, again, it's one of those things that I'm aware people might listen to this and go, oh, you stupid woman, what were you doing letting some man read your child a bedtime story? Just think of the people you know and trust and who you would just let read your child a bedtime story. You know, I don't think we're really naive people.
It's all hindsight, isn't it? It's all hindsight. It's so frustrating to see anyone comment on any person's post that's telling their story of sexual abuse in their childhood and be like, where were the parents? Or the parents failed that child, or didn't you spot the signs? Or any part of the story, they're like, that's obvious. Yeah, of course it's obvious. It's obvious now. It's obvious now when you look back at it. It's obvious now in hindsight. But you don't get hindsight at the moment it's happening. So like any blame towards like caregivers, parents, it's not useful. You know, of course you're going to have some parents and some caregivers that just didn't do their job very well. Right, you're going to get some parents and some caregivers that were not behaving with the interest of the child at heart. They were too busy wrapped up in their own mind. You're going to get loads of those situations. But for the parents who honestly were trying their absolute best, trying to throw like any type of criticism or blame into what they missed, I think is not something that we should be doing at all.
So I did go up to check while the story was going on. I walked in, put my head in, and they were lying on the bed together reading the story on top of the covers, just lying there reading the story. But it gave me a little feeling in my gut that wasn't nice, and I felt uncomfortable. And actually what I thought was, you know, if this was my dad or my brother, they wouldn't lie on the bed with her. They'd sit on the chair to the side, or they'd be sitting up. I didn't like the lying down bit, but I didn't know how to say it. And I also doubted myself. I did that thing where, and I think as a society we all do this, we get this little, instead of going, I need to listen to that feeling, what we do is we go, oh no, gosh, you're not a very nice person. He's being so kind reading a story. He hasn't got any children, so he doesn't know that doesn't feel really appropriate. Just, you know, just let this happen. He's being nice. You know, with hindsight, now, if I were in the same position, I would be saying, sorry, would you mind sitting up? It's one of our boundaries. You know, we don't think it's a good idea for her to think it's okay to lie down with an adult in the bed.
That is valuable information. That is valuable information from somebody that's been through it, right? This video could be used in training courses. This video should be shown at parents' evenings. This video is so important, I can hardly believe it.
But we don't, do we? We often don't do these things. We don't say these things because we're afraid that we're going to seem a little bit weird, that someone's going to think we're overprotective, that, you know, oh, that's a bit odd. Why is she being funny with me? And actually, you know what? Now, I wouldn't give a damn if someone thinks that. if it protects my child. And much more important, for boundaries to be vocalized, for the child to hear you vocalizing that, for that person to hear you vocalizing. Because if that person is a perpetrator, and I don't want to put the fear of God into everybody about every nice person you have in your life, but if that person has got ill intent.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I was planning not to stop it too many times, but it's something that I think about a lot, about when we're discussing this and we're talking about the fact that it could be anyone. It literally could be the most unsuspecting person in your friendship circles, in your family circles, and you may never have a clue that it's happening now, happened in the past, or it's going to happen in the future. Like, you just never know. And the more we talk about this, the more that we're seeing that. But then on the flip side of that, the more we talk about this, the more I worry that we're all just going to be walking around thinking that everyone's a potential offender. And you know what? Maybe that's what we need to do. But that's going to be a very dark world inside your own head if you're walking around thinking that anyone could be an offender, an abuser, an attacker. That's a dark place, isn't it? That's a very, I don't think that mentally is going to be good. But, as I mentioned, I'm not a parent yet, right? So maybe if you're a mother or a father, it's what you do anyway. Maybe it's just what you do anyway. I mean, honestly, if I had a son who was like I was at 5, 7, 9, like wild, doing crazy stuff, jumping off everything, hitting my head everywhere, in A&E because I've done this to my leg. Like, I know that just seems trivial, but maybe when you turn into a mother or a father, you are just constantly worrying. So thinking that everybody possibly could be somebody that would do your child wrong is something maybe that your brain naturally does as soon as you have a child. But yeah, it's almost like we need to strike a balance here, don't we? To being vigilant, like Nancy's brilliantly advising us, right? Brilliantly advising us to do. Be vigilant, question everything, and don't worry about actually saying something if your gut tells you to say something. Because the alternative is you keep quiet and then you get into a situation that you can never recover from because something tragic happened. Right.
And they hear you vocalizing, sorry, we've got boundaries, this is our rules in our family. It actually is a deterrent. It is one little thing that makes them see you're watching. And I know this now. I didn't know it then. So
Nancy.
I want to relay this to other people. I mean, this guy, another thing he did one time in front of me was say to our daughter, the whole family was in the room, and there's a lot of this that happens, the in plain sight stuff. It's testing. It's testing you to see how you will react. So it's very easy to think, that person's doing sort of rough play with my child on the floor, but they're doing it in front of me, so it must be innocent. What they're doing is testing, will mum say anything about me touching this child while I'm there? And if you don't say anything, that child has also got the message, mum thinks it's okay for that guy to do that with me. He said to me one time, said to our daughter, that'll be our little secret. I don't know what they've been talking about, but he said very loudly, that'll be our little secret. And I said, no, thank you. We don't have secrets with adults.
Okay.
And I said to him, I'm sorry, but that's something that child abusers say to children, to which his reaction, oh God, So again, I want to show you I'm not somebody who wasn't completely unaware of dangers or being watchful, and yet still this person got through. And part of the reason our daughter couldn't speak up was that he had threatened her, and that is very common. Because we think, don't we, that we'll see signs in our children, or we'll see things that'll make it obvious to us that something's happening. That's what I always thought. If there was something with my children, I'd know. And trust me, you probably wouldn't. So it's for us as adults to set those really important boundaries vocally in front of everybody.
Because hardly anyone ever shows any signs. The more I do this work, the more I'm seeing, the more stories we share, the more we're seeing that hardly anyone shows any signs. So if we're out there looking for all these common signs, we're going to miss all the other opportunities to spot something, and we may not spot anything at all. So this open environment where they can come to us with anything that they're concerned with is one of our best hopes.
To keep the children safe. And also my message is to people who hear of someone accused of child abuse. It's really difficult if you hear that about somebody that you know and trust, that you think is a good person. Because if you are to let yourself believe that, doesn't it sort of have a little effect on our ego and our sense of knowing how we assess people? Like, I can't have got that wrong because my judgment of people isn't off. It's a little bit of a, oh God, I wouldn't be duped. But trust me, these people are really good at that, and they dupe everybody. And actually, I would say even more so. If you hear that about someone and think, nah, you've got to start asking some questions about, well, hang on a second, let me think. Does this person actually spend a lot more time with children than they do with adults in this situation? Do they make excuses for one-on-one time with children? Are they sort of kind of too good to be true, these people? You know, he was. We went out for a girls' night. He'd be the one picking us up. And we'll do all kinds of things to help. And I just thought, what a nice man. You know? We tragically lost our daughter to this. And so I don't want anybody else in that situation.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I mean, I know this story, but to hear a mother really say that, to hear a mother talk about the fact that they have now lost their daughter has taken her own life as a result of this experience. Any mothers that are watching this right now, that must hit you in your heart. Like, that must strike you down. You must be able to relate to what this mother is going through, even though she is putting on an incredible, brave piece of storytelling for us to learn from. I'm going to rewind it.
We tragically lost our daughter to this.
I can't believe it.
And so I don't want anybody else in that situation. I don't want other people with regrets of wishing they'd listened to those little feelings that just make you go, oh, that set off something in me. If it sets something off in you, question it. Or at very least, sort of put it in a mental notebook in your mind of, well, I'm going to watch that person because that person gave me that little feeling, and I'm going to trust that in my gut. You know, trust yourself. So I hope I haven't put the fear of God into you, but what I do want to do is be real about who these people are, and the fact that if someone comes to you and tells you they've been abused, it is much more likely to be true than not, and you need to support those people.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing your story. I want to hear from more parents, actually, because I feel like a lot of parents are suffering in silence. We are victim focused, and rightly so. We talk about the crime happening to someone. We talk about surviving the crime. We talk about survivors. But where's the conversation for parents? I don't really see any of it. And they're suffering in silence. Maybe they feel like people are looking at them, thinking about what they missed. They're keeping themselves up at night, thinking about what they missed, blaming themselves, living with regret that they'll never shake. When we look at it logically or from a bird's eye view, none of it's their fault. It's the person that committed the crime against their child whose fault it is. It's no one else's fault. No one missed anything. And again, as I say it, as long as you can say in your own heart that you were doing the best job you could as a mother or father, then you are not to blame for this. We're trying to relieve ourselves of some kind of pain that as a parent I'm just pretty sure you can never ever shake off. I just feel like you'd be waking up every morning wondering if the nightmare was over. I'm going to say I'm not too far off by saying that. So look, we've got this new YouTube channel. It's under Something to Say Official. I know that many who listen to this podcast or watch it on YouTube are following the social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're growing those, and we're growing those well. I've got a team of people who are passionate about this, helping me with all of this content. Thank you to the team. And now we've got this YouTube channel to share in video format. We've also, which I've completely forgot to mention, turned it into a podcast and released the audio. So if you type in Something to Say podcast on your usual podcast app, you're going to find that there too. Go follow that. And if you would like to share your story in video format, if you'd like to show the power in your story, if you'd like to encourage and inspire others through sharing your story, please write into us. DM us on any platform and we'll get that sorted out and we'll get your story out there. We are a community. We are a strong community. We want change and we won't stop until we get it. Thank you for joining me on this. Okay, everyone. So I wonder how you feel now that you've heard Nancy's story. The strongest mother talking about her daughter who took her own life after sexual abuse, and all she wants to do is tell the story to educate, inform and make others aware. I mean, there's just so much beauty and just it's just the most phenomenal video. I think it's like one of the most important videos that we've ever released on the platform. In fact, I would go as far as saying that. So please, 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 if you know a mother, if you know a father, if you know an auntie, if you know an uncle, just share this video with them. You can go to the Something to Say official YouTube channel and just share it directly. You don't have to share my reaction to it. Just share the video directly. The video is called Mistaking Paedophiles for Good People and the link will be in the description below. We have to stick together and start pushing this work out if we stand any chance of beating the algorithms and getting this on everybody's table, because that's the aim. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast.